Good morning. Oh, it's so nice to have all of you here today. And Judith is in another room. She was blessed today. She said, if I could just get this COVID thing out of the way for the year, I would feel so good. And her wish came true. And so she's testing positive in another room for COVID.
Indeed.
You want to say anything, Judith? You want to open with a prayer?
N- no, not right now.
Okay. So let's open with um, uh, a mindfulness. And so, what I know right here, right now, is that each of us comes together with a consciousness that is so great and so amazing that we have just now begun to realize the richness of it, the depth of it. And in realizing it, we dig a little deeper and we say yes to all the good that unfolds and is unfolding in every single moment of our day. We claim right here and right now the very highest and the very best for everything that we do, for ourselves and for all of those that we love and for all those that we don't even know. We simply say yes to the good, yes to the positive, yes to life, yes to everything that will support and encourage life to flourish and for love to be increased. With this, I say yes, and I say together, and we say together, and so it is.
And so it is.
Okay, so if I couldn't find out how to mute all of you, so if you would please mute yourselves, that would be great. I'm afraid if I try to mute everybody, then I'll mute Judith also. So Judith, how is it where you are?
It's chilly here. I'm in the back room that was the
The office, yeah.
patio. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
You sure can, yeah.
Okay, good.
You're doing
Do
you
you
got
want do you want me to start with what the good news was from last
Why
year?
don't you, Judith? Yeah. I mean, forget the COVID thing. We don't have to talk about that.
That's right. I said earlier, I'm always glad to see the old year leave because we approach the new year with a brand new slate and we are optimistic and anticipatory about what good may come. But also then we tend to forget, especially with the news coverage that we get with our news on our TV and whatnot and radios, that really some wonderful things happened this year. So I thought might start with uh, paying attention to some of the good things that happened. So number one thing is that there were some big leaps in um, new treatments for diseases that are in many cases helping eradicate. I'm not going to tell you some of them because they're in small countries with diseases that we've never heard of.
And
So I'm not going
Cameron,
to tell you, but there were a couple of places in Africa and Bangladesh where they eradicated a real public health problem in their countries. But then also Belize, which is closer to us, was finally declared malaria free in July by the World Health Organization. And it came as nations approved a new malaria vaccine that is believed to offer up to 80% protection from the disease, which is fabulous, especially for Africa and those countries where they have warm, humid environments. A lot of their children die from malaria, and almost nearly all African children in those certain regions get malaria. So that's a wonderful thing, 80% protection from that. And in this country, we had some wonderful cancer breakthroughs. Um, a new cervical cancer treatment using cheap existing drugs was described as the biggest improvement in the outcome of this disease in over 20 years.
well,
That was cervical cancer. So yay, yay for women. Also then for men, uh, scientists made a tremendously exciting breakthrough in treating prostate cancer. So that's a wonderful thing too, because that treatment can be devastating for men in other important areas other than the functioning of the prostate. And lastly, in the US, data offered a welcome reminder of the progress that's been made already, revealing that cancer deaths rates have plummeted by a third since 1991. And they don't say so here, but I know that a lot of that is due to, I'm trying to remember what they call it, but they actually identify the type of cancer it is and the cell type, and they go in and specifically treat that. And so we've had wonderful results with that. I think they call it biologics. So that's good news. Also, then with climate reparations, that became a reality this year. Oil-rich Dubai was a controversial host for December's COP28 climate summit. But despite various controversies, it chalked up a few achievements. One was a final agreement signed by almost 200 nations to transition away from fossil fuels. Now that you might be thinking that's the least we could do, but to get 200 nations to agree to start transitioning away from fossil fuels is quite a good step.
That's incredible.
And let's see. So, this is big. They've been trying to do this for a long time. We learned how to do in the 1940s, how we learned to do fission, which is breaking apart the atom that created the atom bomb and whatnot. And we have for years been trying to create fusion. It's been thought that we could have free power, electricity, if we could ever get to where it took less energy in to get the energy out if we did fusion, which is combining atoms. And they finally did that this year, not to the point where it's actually usable for us, but to the point that it took less energy going in than they got out. And that's the first step. So
Right.
that's a huge thing. And then I just wanted to say for all of us to think about, and basically it's the essence of what I have to share this morning, which is, and this is a quote by Jane Goodall, who was the chimpanzee expert, Jane Goodall, we pronounce it. She says, you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Now, I think that most of us in this gathering have already thought about that. And I would like to remind you that the good that you do can be everyday things, like just being kind to people. Being a good mother is a wonderful contribution. When I was young, my mother was a wonderful mother, by the way, and she was kind of forced to be home a lot because she had an illness where she would have seizures unexpectedly. So from the time I was about 10, she was pretty much at home all the time, which was wonderful for us because she was always available and she was always emotionally available to us. And so I think she achieved one of the greatest things a woman can achieve. And yet my thinking when I was graduating high school and whatnot is I didn't want to be just a mother, quote unquote. I wanted to achieve something in life, and I have managed to do that, I think, and be a good mother. But really, what I see now, being a good mother was a wonderful achievement all by itself. So I know that many of you are prayer partners, practitioners, or lead a very spiritual life yourself. And I know when you do that, you cannot help but make a difference in the world.
You add light. You add something to the world that is so much needed. And I'm struck when we get to the end of the year, the attention that is given to who's died and who we've lost. And on the one hand, it's nice to have a tribute to the people that have passed on. On the other hand, it's kind of interesting to me that if I look at the news, I find out who got shot that I don't know, who ran a car into a house that I don't know, and a house that did damage, who drowned, what the worst weather that we've ever had is on its way, of course. And let's spend some time talking about the people who've died, and it's endless. And so what I don't realize moment to moment is how constant that barrage of information that is negative is in our lives every day. We don't hear about the people who gave up drinking and have been sober now for the year. We don't hear about the people who've gotten healthier and feel better or overcome a disease. We don't hear about the marriages that are working. We hear about domestic violence. If it happens once in our county, we hear about that. It would just be nice if every now and then we were to hear about some of the good news. There's a comedian, a Finnish comedian who I'm really enjoying, and he did a shtick, and I'm not going to do his shtick because it's his, but I want to talk about it, which is really beautiful. He said, half of television programs are commercials, so that's 50% of the program. He said,
Excuse me, in the US.
in the US, yes. And then half of the television program, half of the commercials are the side effects of the pharmaceuticals that you're supposed to take for a disease that you may not know you could get. And if you did get it and you didn't take this medicine, you could definitely die. However, the side effects also can kill you. So he said, so basically what we're learning about is how dangerous life is and how it's not going to work for us and and if you think about it, that barrage of information constantly, the medicine that you need for the disease that could kill you and the side effects that could get you. If you get away safely, you feel like you got blessed, but then what's the next one? And so, but you need to ask your doctor if it's right for you. So, but I think that the unconscious takes that in, and if we're not careful, that's what we listen to, and we become afraid. And so I think the first thing we could do this new year is to say, I'm not afraid. I refuse to be afraid. I refuse to say yes to the inundation of negative information. We have gone to, I personally, I check out the news on YouTube or not on YouTube, on Yahoo or on one of those. I can survey the news, which stories I want to pay attention to. And then when Judith and I sit down to have a cup of coffee or a drink or whatever we do, we watch the comedy version of the news. And it's so worthwhile because there's some bad news, but why can't we laugh at the same time? Why can't we add laughter? And I'm inviting you to, who is it? Colbert is one of I think the best of comedians who can make fun of everything and at the same time laugh at himself and have us laugh about what's going on rather than feel devastated. When I tune into the news now, what I hear is, come on back in a minute or two and we'll tell you even worse things than this. And so what we need to be able to do is tell ourselves the good things. Before I came on today, I was talking to one of the members of our organization, of our group, and she was asking me if I had seen a particular movie, and I have, and it was a good movie. And then she listed and gave me the name of another movie. We need to network the good news. We need to network the good things that are happening if we're going to have more. We are a community that's intention is to make a difference in the world by being and living positively, by living the idea that we can have everything we want if we would simply say yes to it. And we've lost Judith. So I think we have to be willing to do that if we're going to have the quality of life we want to have. What I know is that our life looks a lot like the way we think. And we may not realize that, but if your life doesn't look very good, the question you'd have to ask yourself is, what am I thinking? What am I thinking about? What am I allowing my thinking to do? What am I allowing my fear to build on and grow from? And if we do that, we can then start monitoring more and more and more and more of what we do. And I didn't think of it as I was growing up. I thought, as I was growing up, whatever you feel, whatever you want, it's sort of random. It just happens. What I learned as an adult and what I learned particularly after I got involved in the science of mind teaching is that you have to be mindful all of the time, not just some of the time. Monitor your own thinking and ask yourself, does this work? Is this the life I want to live and the life I'm thinking about? And if we can do that, then we add light to the world. We add consciousness to the world, positive consciousness to the world. We invite others to join us. Recently, Judith has gotten more involved in some organizations that she hadn't been involved in before. And she was so struck when she got back, we sat down and talked, she was so struck with how quickly people were willing to gossip and be negative toward one another, how easily they bore grudges, how easily they got angry. And I thought, and she was saying to me, this is such a surprise to me because I didn't realize how much I hang out with people of like mind. And that's really important. If we can, if we go to work, we can't change the minds of other people, but we can be a positive influence for them so that their mind can have an option that maybe they hadn't considered. So as we look into this new year, what I would ask us all to do is to be more mindful of the thinking that we're doing that's creating the world that we're living in. And if the thinking that you're doing is negative, then why are you surprised that the world that you're living in becomes negative as well? When we talk about affirmations, an affirmation is a statement put into the universe that we believe to be a truth. And because we believe it to be a truth, we state it as a truth. What happens is the conscious mind and the unconscious mind begins to work on making it so, looking for the evidence to support it. And many of us, without realizing it, are affirming the very worst every day and wondering why we don't see the very best. And I'm not talking to the people who are probably listening here today, but I know for myself, it's very easy to get hooked on fear. It's very easy to not realize how my mind is creating what it will pay attention to. So if I say, it's a good day, it's going to be a great day, there's no other way it could be, I'm programming my unconscious mind to start looking for the evidence to support that. If I say it's going to be a bad day, and I've actually had this happen, when good things happen, I say, oh, well, so far, so good. What's so far, so good meaning? Anticipation of the bad. And so if you find yourself anticipating the bad or worrying about the bad or thinking that the bad is going to happen, then we have to go back to the thinking that we're doing. And if we can, I think for me, clean up my thinking on a day-to-day basis, I can have the kind of year I want to have. And I have to know that if my year is not unfolding the way I'd like it to, I have something to do with that. Not everything, but I have something to do with it. I can choose my friends. I can choose my conversations. I can choose the way I will participate with people in my conversations. And so I think this is the year to experience the quality and richness of our own mind used positively, used affirming the very highest and the very best. And if we will do that, I think there's no way that we can be anything less than joyful and appreciative and admiring of the day. So that lasted longer than I thought it would. Well, but it's also, really, really important because the only person we can manage in this world is ourselves. And it's interesting how often we try to manage other people when we don't necessarily think that we need to manage ourselves. And when I say manage ourselves, that goes back to what I was just saying, which is manage your thinking, manage to think positively. If you can't think positively because things are just not working for you and you've gotten caught in that web, then a bridge that you could use, which I've talked about before that I think is really effective, is life seems to be really bad right now for me, but I believe it's changing. I believe it's positive in ways that I can't see. And how that is happening is a mystery that I'm going to allow to unfold. I can't see it, but I know it's possible. I'm going to live in the possibility. I'm going to say yes to that possibility, even though right now I'm not feeling positive. That invites the consciousness to move in that direction. That invites the unconscious mind to start, as I said before, looking for the evidence to try to figure out what you can do or what needs to happen. The best example I can think of that is, and this has happened to me a lot of times, and I'm sure it's happened to you too. You buy a car and you choose the brand you're going to buy and the color you want, and finally you're driving it on the road. And suddenly, and you never had this happen before, you see every car that's like the one you're driving. And the reason for that is because the unconscious mind, having made that selection now, knows that this is a selection, this is a choice that one made, and now it looks for affirmation and all around for any evidence that's like itself. And so if it works for you're spotting a car on the road that's like the one you're driving, then it works in every other area as well. Whatever happens once unconsciously is happening in every area. So it's really, really important for us to be better conservators of our mind, to think about how we're doing that. So I think we've lost Judith for the little bit. As some of you didn't know, she tested positive for COVID, which is why she was only on part of our talk today. And she's doing really well given that she doesn't feel very good. So I'm going to start wrapping up here with a request that for those of you that know what we're doing here and believe that what we're doing is worth saving and worth preserving and worth continuing, then I would ask you to go to our website, which is what you went on today in order to be able to see us, which is cslpalmbeaches.org. And there you can see our website and you can choose to make a donation if you would like to. And we value your donations. It makes a big difference because it allows us to have the time we need to do the work that we're doing. And we do ministry 24/7, not just on Sundays. And I think that may be something that people don't always realize, that we have calls all during the week. We talk to people all during the week that we want to have the consciousness that will support this world in a way that is positive. And so our ministry is a full-time ministry, and any way that you can support it, we say thank you and we appreciate it. So with that, I'm going to end with an ending treatment. And then we're going to go into the second part of our service, which I really love. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, after the service is over, for those of you that want to stay on, we have a conversation, and it's really a lot of fun. Okay, so as I get centered here, right here and now, all there is God. God in me, working through me, as me, is me in everything I do. There is no one that does not have God in them as a part of them. There is no one who doesn't share God as a part of their being. Knowing this, I say yes to the power, the strength. I say yes to the love and the light. I say yes to the joy and to the laughter that comes from knowing that God and I are one, that we can have it no other way. We are never alone. We are connected in the most divine and amazing way. And so we say yes to recognizing this, yes to inviting it, yes to sharing it and enjoying it. Knowing this to be true, that God in me, is me, as me, right here and right now, I say thank you, and together we say, and so it is. And so I thank you for being here today, and I hope with it, well, I know next week Judith will be back and she'll have the opportunity to share with us with the most amount of what happened to her and how she got all better very, very quickly. So I'm going to sign off on the recording part.
Do you want to go check